Welcome everybody. I'm Mike Linzy, here to talk about a new project that I'm starting as an addition to the model railroad that I'm already working on. Now this is going to be a separate deal. It's only a couple of modules and it more or less represents part one of phase two of model railroad construction. So we'll start getting into that and I'll kind of go not necessarily step by step, but I'll be presenting it kind of in the order that things are being built. I won't necessarily show board by board construction. I think we all kind of understand enough about that now that I don't need to explain it. But I'll show you the things that are kind of personal to my design and why I put them in there, and even cover maybe a couple of corrections that had to be made along the way. So stick around and enjoy and follow along as we complete these two modules here and kind of my own special little build project. So stick around.
Welcome to the Atlas Metals build series, where I build a pair of rollaway modules that can carry my railroad out into the rest of my available space. In this installment, I'll talk about how I built the benchwork and some of the features that go beyond normal benchwork construction. The basic design is box frame, similar to club modules or Fremo, and I carried over some standards that I set when making the tables for the present layout, especially with regards to riser height and the mounting points for the table legs. Because these have to be even more portable than the regular layout sections, given the need to move them in and out of their location between operating sessions, I decided to forego the usual height adjustment bolts, replacing them with a wheeled trolley of sorts. The combined height of the casters and their mounting bases meant that I had to take a bit of length out of the legs, but that's fine, since in this case it is special duty benchwork. Once I was satisfied with the height of the tables in relation to the rest of the layout, I clamped everything off and drilled the base of each leg for a mounting bolt. It should be noted at this time that I did not do all of this for the second module. I'm still ironing out some bugs trying to figure out how to make these two fit together. The sheer size of the second table meant that I had to hinge it in such a way as to tilt it down just to get it in and out of the room, as well as to store it against the music room wall when not in use. This created two problems which I will address as I fix them. But the first one is that when tilted, the weight of the table all shifts to one side of the trolley. Now this can be solved by counterweights, but it will require a larger set of casters that can roll more easily with that much extra weight, lest I break the frame trying to roll it across carpet. The other problem is that the furniture pin method of connecting the two sections is just not robust enough to withstand the slight strain of this module having to cantilever part of its weight so far off center. I haven't settled on how I want to connect these just yet, but I will have to make that decision before I can finish the track laying, so we should know it by the next video. All of this concern about the furniture pins actually did solve a problem elsewhere. Because I added a few extra inches of width to these sections, and one of them still has to roll into the layout room for storage, I didn't want a hinged drop bridge permanently attached to one end. My main concern was that the exposed track on the bridge could catch on the door edges as the section was being moved, so instead I made a lift out. Now this certainly required a bit of engineering, but it was well worth it. Now, my search for furniture pins eventually led to the discovery of what are called pattern maker's pins or pattern maker's dowels, which are similar to the furniture version but with mounting flanges attached. These would have been perfect were I living in England. Apparently that's where they're made and sold and they don't ship to the States. So, pressing on, I decided that I could mimic the function of these little devices by making my own reinforcement plates from aluminum bar stock, measuring about an 1/8 inch thick and 1 inch wide, and setting a 1/4 inch steel pin into one side of the arrangement with 5-minute epoxy. I found to my delight that this works very well and makes a nice solid connection to the standing portion of the layout. My only note of caution is that sometimes the epoxy does not quite hold the steel pin in place. So if you try this, I would make some kind of a notch in the glued in end of the pin so that the glue has something to lock into. To accommodate the lift out, I attached a small lip to the east end of Myrtle Place and cut a 1-inch groove in the tabletop of the rolling section so everything would nest into place in the same way as my brewery module connects to my layout. I found I had to lay at least a little bit of track at this point so I could make sure that all of the alignments would check out. To that end, I put down the closest main track and the junction spur across the lift out and found that the yard end of the bridge track was just a little too low. I compensated for this by adding a couple of washers to shim up that end, holding them in place with a couple dots of Walther's goo. I also wired the lift out and first section for track power so I could further test everything, and it all seems to work just fine for now. So, that's what I've done thus far. Next time, we'll go over the track plan and then apply it to the actual railroad. And I'll show you my solutions to some of the problems I faced in this part. Until then, thanks for watching.
So that's it for this episode. Next time, we'll talk about laying down the cork roadbed and getting started on track work. See you next time.